The newsday continues here on One News Now. I'm Riza Diaz. The Land Transportation Office has decided to extend the validity of expiring driver's licenses until October. The details in this report by Elaine Fulgencio.
Joy was able to get her driver's license in less than an hour at the Land Transportation Department District Office in Diliman, Quezon City. Her license is expiring in June, but she wanted to renew as early as now to save her from any hassle.
Hindi ako sumasabay yun sa date ng expiration ko kasi nag-accommodate naman sila in advance para less din sa akin on my checklist.
But the good news is, licenses expiring on April 24 and beyond will now be valid until the end of October. This was the LTO's response to criticisms after it announced that it would issue licenses printed on paper. The agency is running low on supply of plastic cards for driver's licenses. To date, the offices in Region 3 have already run out of plastic cards. There are also only about 147,000 remaining plastic cards across the country, which could only last until the end of April.
Pinipilit namin i-stretch yung aming supply. So we're trying to communicate with the central office on how we will go about that situation.
LTO Chief J.R. Tugadi said he was already aware that supplies are critically low when he assumed his post in November. He added they already started the procurement process in December. But in January, the Department of Transportation issued a special order which mandates all attached agencies to leave to the mother agency the procurement of items worth 50 million pesos and above. Procurement of 5.2 million plastic card, which should last for a year, was pegged at 249 million pesos.
Nung lumabas po yung SO on January, we were instructed basically to stop all procurement activities because all procurement activities would now have to be conducted by DOTR Central. Had we been able to continue with our procurement activities, we would have sufficient plastic cards right now.
LTO officials said they tried to make an appeal but it was not granted. Because of the complexity of the procurement process, submission of bids for interested suppliers of plastic cards was extended up to May 24. With this, the actual arrival of the plastic cards is still uncertain. Reporting for News 5, Elaine Fulgencio, we are One News.
Agriculture groups are calling on the government to focus on local rice production with an impending global shortage seen in the horizon. According to research, global rice shortage could hit 8.7 trillion tons. This is seen as the worst rice shortage in 20 years. Experts attribute this several ongoing global crises, including the Russian-Ukraine war, climate change, and export bans. With this, the Kilusang Magbubukid ng Pilipinas sees the impending rice shortfall as a sign for the government to focus more on local production.
Ganun dapat ang pag-iisip ng gobyerno. Wala na tayong makukuha na bigas sa world market. Kailangan na nating likhain sa sufficienting kantidad yung pangailangan natin. Wala na tayong aasahan.
Meanwhile, according to Bantay Bigas, the Philippines has been importing around 3 million metric tons of its rice requirement every year. If global rice supply takes a hit, the group is confident that domestic supply can fill the gap as long as there is enough support for local farmers.
Magpatupad ng tunay na reforma sa lupa, support subsidy sa ating mga magsasaka, post-harvest facilities, and at the same time, i-ensure niya, palakasin niya yung mandate ng NFA. Yung mandate ng NFA na natali na lang sa buffer stocking.
We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. Resignation of high-ranking officials is now done with its report after over 2 months. In January, Interior Secretary Benhur Abalos called for the resignation of police officials with the rank of colonel up to general to purge the PNP of cops with links to illegal drug trade. This led to a review of some 953 officials, 917 of which have been cleared by the panel. About 30 are still subject to NAPOLCOM verification. The panel is set to submit the report to the NAPOLCOM for final review and to President Bongbong Marcos for approval. So far, the PNP has remained mum on how many officials they recommended to be removed from the agency.
We were able to resolve. Once we submit it to the Office of the President through the NAPOLCOM, then it's up to the higher authority to bring out ito.
Artificial intelligence has become a part of our daily lives, from the assistant in our smartphones to AIs that make art and edit photos. But how does AI really work? Let's find out from this Bloomberg report.
Discussing whether AI could ever become alive or sentient in the human sense of those words is risky. Some experts consider it at best a distraction from important research, while others with equal expertise believe it's essential we at least ask, yeah, but what if? And the faster AI systems develop, the more the question crops up. The reason in part is that sophisticated AI systems are built using so-called neural networks, a technology loosely based on the makeup of the human brain, but without the biological limits. So how do they work? Imagine a child with a shape sorting cube. We'll call them Alex. At first, Alex is given a bunch of blocks and holes to fit them through. They place the triangle on a circular opening, but realize that's wrong. Eventually, they go for the triangular hole. Great success! Have a balloon, Alex. In future, Alex can be given different size shapes and a fabulous new cube, but that initial trial and error means they're more likely to succeed with further attempts. This is essentially how neural networks function too. They learn to make the machine equivalent of educated guesses, though it can take thousands or even millions of attempts to become proficient. Just as a child's brain learns to map neural pathways based on what it's been taught, an AI's virtual neurons learn to generate ideas and responses based on the information it's been fed. These neurons are layered deeply on top of each other, which is why the approach is also known as deep learning, and greatly increases their flexibility and power. And this is where the question of sentience comes in. Some people argue that the more closely the fabric of a machine resembles that of a human, the greater the risk is that we create something that can think for itself, teach itself, and perhaps assume the worst of human behavior and go rogue, in the vein of the hosts in HBO's Westworld.
And those are the top stories of the hour. Join us later at 12 noon as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. I'm Riza Diaz. We are One News.